ladies and gentlemen, it's Lance again. Today we're having a look at the Apple TV 4K. I've had the Apple TV for about a week now, and these are the positive and negative points that I've found so far. Let's start off with the pluses. It's always running in HDR, which is nice because the interface is then nice and crisp and all beautiful and stuff. All the Apple movies that you bought on full HD are now 4K by default, the ones that are available in 4K obviously, which is nice because there's no extra money to be spent there. As with the older Apple TVs, all your accessories like Bluetooth headsets, AirPods, all of that type of thing work seamlessly with it. Although it's only Bluetooth 4, I would have thought that they would have upgraded to Bluetooth 5. Apart from Apple Movies, which is quite nice because they've got, the movies are actually very well priced because they haven't upped the prices for the HDR and the 4K stuff, or the 4K HDR stuff. Whereas places like Amazon and the likes where you actually purchase your movies, they charge you quite a bit more for your 4K movie. So that they've got going for them. The downside is their library is not huge. There's not that many movies available from them yet in 4K, especially 4K HDR. The other downside, of course, is no YouTube support. Don't know why. YouTube and Apple don't seem to be able to talk. Even on iOS devices, you can't watch YouTube on at full 4K. Even if it's available at 4K, you can only watch it, I think it's 144p, 1440p, which is, that's not 4K. Obviously, this is an ongoing thing, and I really wish they would sort it out and start talking to each other. Because having a 4K Apple TV with YouTube on it that I can't watch any YouTube videos in 4K, even 4K HDR, which are available on YouTube, it's just a different codec which Apple doesn't support at this stage. Netflix, I found that when I'm watching Netflix on the Android TV that's built into my smart TV, they show up as 4K HDR and I can watch them at 4K HDR. Whereas when they show up on Apple TV, they show up as just Ultra HD 4K. There's no HDR, like 4K HDR or anything like that, which makes me think that they don't support the HDR that Apple is supporting, or only a very few of them are. Hopefully that'll change as well. A little side note, I found when going into the settings, you can actually do a check on your cable. I'm not one of those that believe that certain cables that cost 10 times as much are so much better than a normal cable that will cost you 20 euros in the store. But you can actually test your cable and it will allow you to set your color space from 420 to 422, which allows you even more range of colors. HDR, there's two flavors of HDR on TVs. You can get 8-bit HDR, which is 420 from what I understand, and you can get full HDR, which is 10-bit, which is 422 color space. So the 8-bit is still HDR, it's just not as good as the 10-bit HDR. At least that's the way I understand it. So this setting over here, you can actually set from 420, if your cable supports it, to 422, which I've done. And I can't notice a hell of a lot of difference. It is a full HDR 10-bit TV that I'm watching on. Maybe I'll see it when the movies actually start supporting that type of HDR. But so far, it looks good. I can't tell much difference. Amazon Prime TV is coming to Apple TV 4K as well. That'll be good because they've got a nice selection of 4K movies as well. And I'm hoping that as it goes along, we'll get more and more support for all of these platforms. Hopefully Apple can eventually talk to Google and we can actually get some 4K support through Google, which, if we're lucky, will filter over to your iOS devices. So that when you're sitting with a 12-inch iPad Pro, I know you're not actually viewing 4K, but your quality is a lot better if you can stream in 4K on a lower resolution monitor. And I'd like to be able to do it. even if it's just an option. So hopefully that'll filter down to the other iOS devices as well, if they can start talking to each other and we get support on at least the Apple TV 4K. The A10X chip is obviously very good. It's the same chip that's sitting here in my 12.9-inch iPad Pro. Works pretty well, as you'd expect. It's Apple equipment with an Apple OS and an Apple chip, so everything runs smoothly. I haven't had any issues with stuttering or anything like that. There are some times when it takes a little bit longer to load, obviously, to stream a movie, but it's a larger movie, so you know, you've got to expect things like that. I have found that if you really want to stream 4K, then best to plug in a LAN connection into your Apple TV. Wireless connection generally not so good, but it might just be my wireless. Maybe you've got the super duper wireless that runs at phenomenal speeds. I don't. So I've plugged it into the LAN and it works fine that way. As far as changes go between this one and the previous generation, they've removed the USB-C port that was in the back for tethering to your Mac or something, mainly for firmware updates, and if you're a developer and you wanted to pump your app straight out to the Apple TV. So that's no longer there. Also, they've changed the remote a little bit. They've added a little white circle around the menu button, which has actually got a little ridge on it, which is quite nice because now you know which way you're pointing. Before, you could be pointing it at yourself and still going and nothing happening. So that's quite nice. Just by picking it up, you can now know which way it's pointing. Other than that, it's exactly the same. Trackpad, I don't see any real differences in this. Well, I hope you enjoyed this quick look at the new Apple TV 4K. If you liked it, please like and subscribe and click the little bell icon so that you can get notifications on more videos. And I'll catch you on the next one. Bye bye. Let's wait for the car to go past. The A10X chip is obviously